Rain dripped softly against the tall glass walls of Orion Research Facility, a quiet lab located on the edge of the Pacific coast. Inside, a woman worked alone beneath the blue glow of monitors. Her name was Dr. Ilara Voss, a 34-year-old physicist known for her sharp mind and quiet determination. For the last 10 years, Ilara had been leading the Chronogate project, humanity's first real attempt to open a stable rift in time. Most called her obsessed, others called her a dreamer, but she wasn't doing it for fame or power. To Ilara, it was about understanding the one thing humans had never been able to control: time itself. She believed time was not magic or mystery. It was a river of data, measurable and predictable, and tonight, that theory would be tested again. She adjusted the last sequence on her console. The quantum coils hummed. The entire chamber vibrated with energy. A digital voice echoed through the speakers. Chronogate activation sequence initiated. Ilara stepped back, eyes fixed on the glowing ring inside the chamber. For a moment, nothing happened, and then the air rippled like water. A spark of light appeared at the center of the ring. It stretched, twisted, and suddenly expanded into a bright sphere. Alarms started flashing. The sensors spiked far beyond the limit. Impossible, Ilara whispered. The energy pulse stopped, leaving a faint shimmer in the air. And then, out of nowhere, a man stepped out of the light. He collapsed to his knees, coughing. His clothes burned around the edges. His jacket was made of some metallic fabric Ilara had never seen. On his chest was a small badge, glowing faintly with unknown symbols that shifted like code. Ilara froze. Her mind screamed at her to call security, but her curiosity was stronger. She slowly approached him. "Who are you?" she asked. The man looked up. His eyes were calm, almost too calm for someone who had just appeared out of thin air. "My name is Raylan Ward," he said in a tired voice, "and I've come a long way." From the year 3127, Ilara blinked. "You're saying you came from the future?" "Yes," he said simply. "But not for science. Not for war. I came for you." Her heart skipped. It was such a strange thing to hear, so out of place in her world of equations and logic. "For me, that's not possible. I've never seen you before." Raylan smiled faintly, sadness in his expression. "Not yet, but in my time you were the most important person in my life. You changed everything." Ilara stepped back, unsure if he was insane or telling the truth. The facility's security system scanned him but failed to identify his biometrics. Every reading came back blank. It was as if he didn't exist in any database. Trying to stay calm, she said, "If you really came from the future, you should be able to prove it." He nodded and lifted his badge. With a small gesture, it projected a stream of holographic images: cities of silver, floating stations orbiting dying stars, and a planet surrounded by a giant ring of light. In one image, Ilara saw something that froze her completely: herself, standing beside Raylan, older, smiling, holding a device that looked like a miniature chronogate. "That's me," she whispered. "But that's impossible." Raylan looked at her softly. "It's not impossible. It's inevitable." Ilara's mind raced. There was no record of this man, yet he knew too much. Her research, her upcoming experiments, even personal details no one else should have known. When he mentioned her mother's favorite lullaby, something Ilara hadn't told anyone since childhood, she felt a chill. "How do you know that?" she asked quietly. He looked down. "You sang it to me once, when the stars were falling." Her chest tightened. Something about his voice carried sincerity that logic couldn't deny. But before she could ask more, the control panel beeped. Radiation levels spiked again. The rift behind him flickered violently. Ilara rushed to the console. "The chronogate's unstable. If that field collapses, we'll both—" "Don't worry," Raylan interrupted, stepping forward. "I can handle it." Before she could stop him, he pressed his badge, and the field instantly stabilized. The readings dropped to normal levels, as if he had just overridden the entire system with a single thought. Ilara stared at him in disbelief. That technology, it shouldn't exist. Even our AI couldn't stabilize the field that fast. He smiled faintly. "In my time, you made it possible." Her mind was a storm of questions. Why her? Why come here? Was this man real or just a trick of quantum interference? She decided to keep him under observation until she could figure it out. Later that night, the storm outside had turned into gentle rain. Ilara sat across from Raylan in the observation room. The lights were dim, the hum of machines filling the silence. "Tell me why you're really here," she said finally. "No riddles. No strange words." Raylan leaned back, his eyes distant as if looking through time itself. "In my timeline," he began, "the Earth was dying. The sun had entered its final phase, and Project Aeon, the one you created, was humanity's last hope to survive. You built a gate strong enough to send a colony into another era. But during the final sequence, you were gone. You died saving us all." Ilara's breath caught. "That's absurd." He looked at her with quiet pain. "You don't believe me now, but you will. Before you left us, you told me something. You said love doesn't run out of time, it just changes where it lives. That phrase carried me through centuries, but I couldn't bear to live knowing I never told you the same." He paused, his voice low. "So I broke every law of time and came back, not to save the world, but to tell you that love never runs out of time." Ilara sat frozen. The words hit her harder than she expected. There was no logical explanation for the emotion rising inside her. She didn't know this man, yet every word felt familiar. She tried to mask her confusion with sarcasm. "So let me get this straight. You risked breaking the laws of time to tell me that you love me?" He smiled sadly. "It sounds foolish when you say it that way, but yes. I came because even across centuries I couldn't forget you." Ilara looked away. Her heart told her one thing, but her mind refused to accept it. "If what you say is true, then the universe is full of paradoxes." Raylan nodded. "And yet paradoxes exist because the universe still allows love to bend its rules." She fell silent. For the first time in years, she felt something beyond equations, something human, something alive. Hours passed. The rain stopped and dawn began to touch the horizon. Ilara turned to see Raylan still awake, watching the light reflect through the glass. "You should rest," she said. He smiled faintly. "I've seen too many mornings. This one is special." Something in his voice made her heart ache. She didn't know if he would disappear, or if any of this was real. But deep inside, a quiet thought whispered, "What if it is?" As she left the room, the sensors flickered again. Her system displayed an alert. Temporal disturbance detected. Entity destabilizing. She looked back at him, and for a split second, Raylan's figure shimmered like static light before returning to normal. Her stomach tightened. He wasn't stable. He might fade at any time. But as she walked away, one thought echoed in her mind louder than reason itself. He came from the future. And somehow I believe him. Morning light spilled into the glass-walled lab as Dr. Ilara Voss stood at her console, staring at the readings from the night before. The data didn't make sense. According to the chronogate system, a quantum rift had opened without authorization, and yet it had stabilized faster than any human or AI could manage. She rubbed her temples. "No human could have done that," she murmured. Behind her, the door hissed open. Raylan Ward walked in, calm as always, dressed in a fresh set of simple clothes Ilara had provided. He looked almost normal now, except for that faint light that still flickered around him whenever he moved. "Good morning, Doctor," he said gently. Ilara turned, arms crossed. "I've been running your readings all night. You're not from this timeline. Your atomic structure is slightly misaligned, like you're vibrating at a different frequency." Raylan nodded. "That's because I'm still connected to my original time stream. Being here too long could—" "Tear the link," she frowned. "Tear the link? What happens if it does?" He hesitated. "I disappear completely." Ilara's eyes widened. "Then why stay?" Raylan smiled faintly. "Because I didn't come here to live. I came here to tell you something that matters more than my life." Her chest tightened. She looked away, pretending to check the monitor. "You said that before, and that you came for me. But if this is true, then your presence is breaking time itself. Look at this." She turned the screen toward him. On the display, a series of spikes showed growing disturbances across the world. Time skips, memory lapses, even seconds repeating. Somewhere, the laws of cause and effect were unraveling. Raylan studied the data. "They've noticed," he said quietly. "Who?" Ilara asked. "The Time Authority," he said. "They protect the flow of history in my era. I broke the prime law by coming here. They'll come to correct the timeline by erasing me and possibly you." Ilara stepped back, stunned. "Erased me?" He nodded. "Because once I told you the truth, you became part of the paradox. For the first time in her life, Alara felt something stronger than fear: helplessness. She had always believed that knowledge and logic could solve everything. But this was beyond calculation. She took a slow breath. Then we need to fix it. If we stabilize the quantum rift, maybe we can send you back before the authority arrives. Raylan shook his head. It's not that simple. The moment I crossed over, history changed. There's no version of me to return to. Alara frowned. That doesn't make sense. You can't exist in both times at once. He gave her a sad look. And yet, here I am. The hours passed as Alara ran test after test, trying to find a way to restore balance. She could feel Raylan watching her, silent but present, as if his gaze alone steadied her shaking thoughts. At one point, he asked softly, "Do you ever wonder why humans fight so hard against time?" She stopped typing. "Because it's the only thing we can't win against." Raylan smiled faintly. "In my century, we learned that time isn't an enemy. It's a memory, and a living one, but love is the one thing that refuses to obey it." Alara met his eyes. "You keep saying that." "Because it's the truth you taught me," he said. "In my timeline, when everything was falling apart, you believed that love could survive anything, even the end of the universe." Alara shook her head. "That doesn't sound like me." "Not yet," Raylan said softly. "But one day it will." That night, as the lab grew quiet, Alara sat near the large window overlooking the ocean. The stars shimmered above the waves, and she felt smaller than ever before. Raylan joined her, sitting a respectful distance away. "The ocean looks the same even in my time," he said. "Some things never change." She smiled faintly. "You talk like someone who's seen the end of everything." "I have," he said simply. There was a silence between them, not heavy, just peaceful. After a while, Alara asked, "What was it like? The future?" Raylan took a long breath. "Beautiful and broken. We built cities that floated between clouds, ships that sailed across galaxies, machines that could think better than us. But somewhere we forgot why we created them. We forgot what made us human." He looked at her. "You reminded us." Alara tilted her head. "Me? Yes, you taught us that love is not weakness. That it's the reason humanity survives when everything else fades." She laughed softly, shaking her head. "You make me sound like some kind of hero." Raylan smiled. "You were. You just haven't become her yet." The next day, strange things began to happen. The clocks around the facility started running backward for seconds at a time. Computer logs repeated past entries. One technician claimed he remembered a version of the day that hadn't happened yet. Alara realized the paradox was spreading. "The more you stay here," she told Raylan, "the more unstable reality becomes. You said the Time Authority will come. How will we know when they arrive?" Raylan's face darkened. "We'll feel it. They don't come in ships, they appear as distortions. They erase, not destroy." That night, the lights flickered again. For a brief second, the air shimmered and Alara saw ghostly figures outside the lab, human shapes made of silver light. Then they were gone. "They're close," Raylan said. Alara's heart pounded. "Then we need to send you back now." He shook his head. "It's too late. The only way to restore balance is for the paradox to end and for me to fade." "No," she said firmly. "There has to be another way." He stepped closer, his hand hovering near her shoulder but not touching. "You don't understand, Alara. I didn't come here to live forever. I came here to tell you that love doesn't end with time. That message? It's what creates your future. Without it, the world I came from would never exist." Her eyes widened. "So this moment, it was always meant to happen?" Raylan nodded. "Yes, you're not the cause of the paradox. You're its purpose." Alara felt her throat tighten. She wanted to say something, anything, but words felt too small. She looked at him, and for the first time, she didn't see a stranger. She saw something familiar, like a forgotten dream. "Raylan," she said quietly, "if what you're saying is true, then when you go, I'll remember you, won't I?" He smiled sadly. "Not in the way you think. Time will erase the memory, but your heart will remember the feeling." He reached into his pocket and handed her his glowing badge. "Keep this. Someday it'll help you finish what we started." She stared at it. The symbols shifted like living light. "What is it?" "It's a fragment of the future," he said. "Proof that love leaves traces even when time tries to erase them." Suddenly the air shook again. The silver figures reappeared, surrounding the lab. Everything began to distort. Colors twisting, sounds echoing out of sync. "They're here," Raylan said. His body flickered like static. "It's time." Ilara grabbed his arm. "No, there has to be something I can do." He looked at her, calm and gentle. "You already did. You believed me." She felt tears sting her eyes. "Please, don't fade," he smiled softly. "Even if I vanish, you'll still find me. Because love doesn't follow the clock. It follows the soul." Light surrounded him. His outline began to blur. For a brief second, the lab disappeared, replaced by endless stars and colors that no human eye had ever seen. Ilara reached out, but her hand touched only air. He was gone. The chrono gate shut down by itself. The readings returned to normal. The silver figures vanished. Silence filled the lab. Ilara fell to her knees, holding the glowing badge in her hands. The symbols slowly rearranged themselves into words. Love never runs out of time. Her vision blurred with tears, but a strange calm filled her chest. Somewhere deep inside, beyond all logic, she knew he was right. The paradox had ended, but something eternal had begun. The lab was quiet again. For the first time in years, Dr. Ilara Voss felt truly alone. The chronogate chamber stood silent, the lights dim, the air filled with faint traces of burnt ozone. Only one thing glowed in the room, the small silver badge Raylan had given her. It rested on her desk, its symbols gently shifting like breathing light. He was gone. The world had returned to normal. But Ilara's world had changed forever. Days passed, then weeks. Ilara buried herself in her work as she always did, but now there was something different about her. She stopped calling her project Chronogate. She renamed it Project Aeon. No one in the lab knew why. Her team believed she was moving on to a new phase of research, but for Ilara, Project Aeon was a promise, one made to a man from a future that might no longer exist. She studied the badge every night. Its energy signature didn't match any known element. It responded to her heartbeat, glowing brighter when she touched it. Sometimes, when she looked into it long enough, she could swear she heard a whisper. Soft, almost lost in time. Love never runs out of time. The words felt like they came from everywhere and nowhere. Months later, the world entered a new age of discovery. Humanity had learned how to control time fragments, small windows of space where the flow of time could be slowed or accelerated. Ilara's theories made it possible, but something strange happened whenever she worked with the badge. The systems around her would react in ways they couldn't explain, machines humming on their own, equations solving themselves. It was as if the badge contained not just energy, but memory. One night she made a decision. She would open the chronogate one last time, not to bring anyone back, but to understand what Raylan had truly meant. She stood before the control console, the room bathed in dim blue light. The waves outside crashed against the cliff below the facility. Her fingers trembled slightly as she placed the silver badge into the main reactor's slot. Instantly, the monitors came alive. Data streamed faster than light. The badge pulsed like a heartbeat. "System recognition complete," said the computer. "Entity registered Commander Raylan Ward." Ilara's breath caught. "Raylan?" The voice that followed was faint but real. "Hello, Ilara." Her heart nearly stopped. The sound wasn't just a recording, and it was alive. "I left this message inside the badge," the voice continued. "If you're hearing this, it means I've faded, but my echo remains. You're close, Ilara. Close to something greater than both of us." Tears welled in her eyes. "Raylan, why me? Why come for me?" she whispered. The voice replied, "Because you taught me that love is stronger than destiny. I had to make sure that lesson survived the centuries. Project Aeon isn't just about time travel. It's about carrying emotion through eternity. You will finish it. And when you do, we'll meet again. Not in time, but in forever." Then the voice faded. The badge dimmed to silence. Ilara wiped her eyes and looked at the glowing reactor. She finally understood. Raylan hadn't come to change history. He had come to start it. Years passed. Project Aeon became the foundation for humanity's future. With Ilara's guidance, the world built the first time arc, a massive machine capable of carrying human consciousness through the fabric of time. By then, Ilara was older, wiser, but her eyes still carried that same quiet fire. She never married, never sought fame. Her colleagues said she was married to her work, but deep down, She knew she was bound to something far deeper. Every time she looked at the stars, she thought of him. Sometimes she wondered if he still existed, somewhere beyond time, waiting. One evening on the anniversary of the Chronogate incident, Alara visited the old lab. It had been abandoned for years, replaced by newer, more advanced facilities. The air smelled of dust and salt. She placed her hand on the console where she had first seen him appear. "So this is where it all began," she said softly, "and where it ends." She placed the silver badge back into the control slot. The machine flickered weakly but still recognized it. "Chronogate system ready," said the old computer voice. Alara smiled. One last time. She began typing commands, her fingers steady. Her heart was calm. The room filled with light again, soft and golden this time. Not the harsh energy of science, but something warmer, almost peaceful. The badge glowed brighter than ever. Its symbols stabilized into clear letters. It spelled one word. Now. Alara stepped closer to the gate. The air shimmered with memories, laughter, echoes, the warmth of a hand she had once almost held. "I'm ready," she whispered. The chronogate pulsed. A beam of light surrounded her, gentle as sunlight. For a moment she felt weightless, her body dissolving into light, her mind opening to everything. She saw time unfold, past, present, and future overlapping. She saw countless stars being born and dying. She saw humanity rise, fall, and rise again. And then she saw him. Raylan stood in the distance, just as she remembered, calm, smiling, his eyes filled with warmth. "Alara," he said softly, his voice echoing across eternity. She smiled through her tears. "You waited. I told you," he said, stepping forward. "Love doesn't run out of time." She reached out her hand. This time, when their fingers met, they didn't fade. The world around them melted into pure light, not bound by physics or years, but by something deeper. Together they walked into the brightness, leaving the concept of time behind. Centuries later, long after Alara's name had become legend, humanity completed the time arc. On its central pillar, they engraved the words she had chosen before her final experiment, words that inspired generations. He came from the future, just to tell her that love never runs out of time. Every student who studied her work read those words and felt something, a spark, a warmth they couldn't explain. Some said it was inspiration, others said it was faith. But the truth was simpler. It was love. The same love that had once bent the laws of time, carried across centuries by two hearts that refused to forget each other. And though no one knew it, far beyond the stars, in a realm where time had no meaning, Alara and Raylan watched over humanity's endless journey, side by side forever. Years later, when the first colony of humans reached a new galaxy, their ship sensors detected an unknown signal in deep space, a soft repeating message, coded in old Earth data. The translation read, "I found you again," and then another reply followed seconds later, "I always do." The crew didn't understand where it came from. They logged it as a harmless anomaly, a whisper from the stars. But if you listened closely, it sounded almost like two voices, one male, one female, drifting together in